kinky isn't just what you do. For a lot of people, it's an identity. It's a state of mind. It's an orientation. For me, it's an identity. It's just who I am, whether or not I'm swinging in some rope or not, whether or not I'm in latex or not. This is just who I am.
How long did it take you to get to
damn.
that?
From based on your research, official scientific consensus, where does a person's kink originate from?
It depends. And y'all like that answer, right?
Okay.
Well, in general, if you've been ostracized and shitted on and stigmatized for your very existence, you kind of know how that feels, and you don't want others to feel that way, hopefully. And so you extend to people what you wish you had, right? Which was some grace, some space, being seen, being understood. And I feel like the kink community knows what it feels to be ostracized. Know that this is a part of your story. Now, what do we want to do with that information?
Holy shit. Holy shit.
I think I'm going to have to rewatch this episode even though I'm on it.
You'll never be published in a PubMed or anything like that because you're not legitimate. I was like, fuck you and PubMed. I'll start my own journal.
Oh, fuck.
Yes.
So now we have the Journal of Kink and Community. About 90% of my clients had some form of sexual trauma. However, 64% are interested in kink. So if something is over 50%, that would be what, right? So if the norm of people being interested in kinky sex or whatever is 64%, then they're actually the majority. So most people are actually kinkier than they expect themselves to be.
I feel 1% smarter after this episode.
That's it. Damn it, I didn't do my job.
What's up, sinners and saints?
This is Boudoir After Dark.
This is the podcast about sex, kink, desires, and all the things people whisper about but rarely ever say out loud.
And we're constantly blown away by how many different ways humans experience pleasure, identity, intimacy, and power.
We're here to ask the questions that sometimes people might be too afraid to ask, and then challenge the bullshit assumptions that we've all been taught.
So if you're here to learn, unlearn, and maybe question a few things you thought you knew,
welcome to Boudoir After Dark.
Quick note before we get into it.
This podcast is intended for mature audiences.
We are not giving medical or legal advice.
Or mental health advice or professional counseling.
If you need personal help, please talk to a qualified professional.
This episode is for education, storytelling, and entertainment.
Let's get into it.
Boudoir After Dark. This is me.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Boudoir After Dark podcast, sponsored by Boudoir After Dark. My name's Jason.
Why the fuck are you talking like a game show host?
And today...
No.
No, are we not using that one?
We're definitely not using that one.
Okay.
Did you notice his voice change and everything? And he started tilting his head a certain way. I'm like,
come on down.
The fuck is that?
The Price is Right?
Dave from Paladina.
Yeah, this is the podcast where we pretend not to be other people, where we don't pretend to be other people. We're ourselves, remember? So just be your cheesy self. Show the world that you didn't shave your head and you're wearing a hat, but you're always wearing a hat, so they won't know. Okay.
And I'm Jason.
I'm Hilda. If he keeps this freaking intro, I'm going to be pissed.
I guess she's gonna be pissed. I guess she's gonna be mad. Well, I guess she's gonna be upset. Yep. She's pretty pissed off.
Oh, I'm so using this
You
episode,
are.
though.
She's pretty pissed off.
Welcome to the Boudoir After Dark podcast. My name is Hilda.
My name is Jason.
And welcome to Boudoir After Dark.
Oh, and now I'm supposed to take over?
Yeah.
Nice. Well, enough about us. Because
We are so excited to welcome our
I
guest.
cannot
Yeah.
tell you how excited I am.
Yeah.
We have our first doctor of sexology, clinical.
I
A doctor.
know.
God damn it, I fucked this up, but I don't care. I'm going to keep rolling
Yes.
because that's what happens in life.
So
Dr. Yulinda Renee Rahman, welcome
Renee,
to
it's
the
not
show.
Renee.
It is.
Oh.
Boom!
Wow, I missed the whole Renee part. I was so stuck on the other name. Okay, I apologize. We're just going to call
It's
you
all about
Doc
learning.
Yu Roc. Yeah,
This
that's right.
whole
That's
show
why I'm
is
here
about
today.
learning.
Yes, and obviously fucking up because that's what I do best.
I mean, I like fucking up.
Hell yeah, that's how you learn, right?
Yeah,
That's how you grow.
Welcome.
But you are best known as Doc Yu Roc.
Yes.
Which is how you were introduced to us, and we geeked out over the name.
Yep.
And we didn't even know your full name until we had to go online.
Yeah.
So, Doc Yu Roc, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I am excited to be here.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Oh my
What
God.
are you going to teach us today?
I mean, it depends on what you want to learn.
A lot, everything. So I honestly want to know, like, where the doctor of sexology came from. Like, can we start there?
Oh, well, that's a bit of a story. So,
Well, that's what we do here.
okay, well, let's get into it. So, how did I get to that point? Is that what you're asking?
Or what triggered your interest into going into sexology?
I mean, same thing, same story. So it works. So I try to make a very long story shorter. So when I was a therapist, because I don't see clients anymore, I still have my license, but I don't see clients anymore. When I was seeing them, 90%, that's not a hard and fast, but about 90% of my clients had some form of sexual trauma, right? So we're starting there. And I was male, female, young, old, black, white, whatever. That was the thing. And so I felt like I needed to go back to school and get my weight up as far as my education around this topic. And so I was looking for a program. I had thought about going to clinical psych, all of the things, but I found a program for sexology. And I looked at it, I'm like, I think this would be the best route to go, because at that program, I can also get my sex therapist certification. So I wanted that. So I did that, and as a part of my training for the doctorate, 'cause I decided to keep going, they had a few programs, few specialties. One of them was kink consciousness. And I was like, well, that sounds interesting.
Okay. So question, were you in the kink community at that point or no?
But what was that? 20, kind of, sort of. I had already put my toes in with my ex-partner. We've been to a few parties, a few things.
Okay.
But I was not officially in it on a community level yet, really. And neither had I really identified myself as kinky yet.
Okay.
Right? I can identify myself as exploring, but I had not identified myself as kinky. And so I'm like, I want to see what's happening here. Because being someone who looks like me, black woman, I'm like, there's a lot of black kinky folks, but they pretend like their ass aren't kinky. So I would like to create a space where black folks feel like they can have these conversations. And so...
Why do you think they pretend? Like, what would be the reason?
all of the trauma and drama that goes on with that. I mean, it's not... I'll tell you this, for a lot of black folks, kinky that's white folk shit, right? They don't do kink, right? That's not what we do, that's what they do. Although that's not true, because they're doing kinky shit too, but to align themselves with that's white folk shit. We don't do that. And so there's this level of stigma that comes with that for us. More
just like being gay. Like they're on the DL, but it's like they're still doing it, but they're not gay.
Exactly. And so I'm like, I'm going to create a space where we can keep it all the way real, right? I know you're already doing the shit at home behind closed doors, so let's have a space where we can talk about it for real. So that was another reason why I went into the kink.
Oh my God, thank you for giving something to a community that is marginalized already, but like giving people a voice or a safe place. And like you hear that word a lot is like safety in kink in general, but like literally being a place to have a safe voice. Holy shit,
so
man.
what were some of the steps you took to give them this space?
I use myself an example. You know, for a lot of things, I put myself forward first, and that usually gets other people like, oh, well, she's out there, she's doing it. Okay, then maybe it's okay for me to put myself out there. So I throw myself on the altar, I guess you could say, for the work.
Okay.
And so, I started with myself. I'm my own guinea pig. I'm my best case study. Yeah.
And how long ago was this?
So I started my program 2017. So 2019 is when I went to San Francisco as a part of my training, and we went to some munches. So I don't know if you all know what a munch is at this point. Okay,
but please, if this is someone's first episode.
Okay, so a munch is basically a get-together for people who are kinky or interested in kink to give them a easier way to become a part of the community if they want, right? So you might go to a restaurant or a picnic or whatever just to get to know people. So we went to some munches in San Francisco, went to a play party at a dungeon. And while I was there, I'm like, there's some shit happening in here.
Was that your first experience with a dungeon?
With a dungeon, right?
That was your first dungeon?
That was my first dungeon.
Oh, okay.
Yep, my first dungeon. I had been to a swingers party that had like a little cage in the back, right? It's like, that's for the kinky folks, right? Y'all go back there in the corner. We're going to be over here doing our thing. Y'all go to the corner. Right? So I noticed, I was like, what is that? You know? But this was my first experience in an actual dungeon. And I'm like, you can feel the energy in the space. Like people are letting some shit go in here. And as a part of my training, one of the things I talked about in my personal experience is that, I knew intellectually all of the issues I had and traumas and blah, 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 but I still could feel it viscerally in my body, like the anger, the rage, the whatever. And I'm like, why can't I purge this shit? Like, what's happening? I'm like, they're purging stuff in this dungeon. I want some of that. And off to the races I went.
Really? So you immediately knew or felt that this was something that people can do, like purge their issues.
Yeah, there's potential here.
Okay.
Let's see what we can do with it.
Okay. So that's what kind of started you on this road. And
Oh, no kidding.
that is. What was the one thing that you remember when you saw that dungeon for the first time? Like, what stuck out at you? Was there one specific activity or?
You know, it's interesting. The word that popped in my head was respect. Like people respected people's space, right? Like you might have a flogging here, you might have some medical play here, you might have something there, and everybody was in their space, and everybody's space was respected. And that's what comes up automatically with that question is respect.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
It feels almost like sacred. Like
Exactly.
like you may not be into something. You may not want to be a part of it.
Yeah.
But it's still sacred to give that to somebody else and be like, you have this space and I welcome you and I honor you for it.
And like
I fucking get that.
we talk about this almost every episode, like how non-judgmental, like the good kind of dungeons and the good people, obviously there's always some, outliers, but we always feel so accepted and welcome, even as vanillas, like we don't know anything. And like they're explaining things to us and they're like, you can ask questions and it's just so welcoming. And why do you think that is? Why do you think kinky people are so open about not only welcoming newbies, but like accepting people in the community?
Well, in general, if you've been ostracized and shitted on and stigmatized for your very existence, you kind of know how that feels and you don't want others to feel that way, hopefully. And so you extend to people what you wish you had, right? Which was some grace, some space, being seen, being understood. And I feel like the kink community knows what it feels to be ostracized, knows what it feels like to be thrown to the wolves, per se. And we try to do something a little bit different. Yeah.
Wow. So when did you first did you start practicing like kinky shit right away, or did you educate yourself first? Like, how did that come about?
Yeah, I'm much more mental before I am physical.
Okay.
Right. So I consumed, right? So even my dissertation was me doing an extensive literature review of what already existed.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah. And so I consumed as much as possible. Ooh, let me try and remember the damn name of that dissertation. It's long as fuck. Take this damn hat off.
Oh, it's getting serious now.
Take this damn hat off. So let me see if I can remember. It's called Healing the Angry Black Woman. Looking at the potentiality of therapeutic BDSM as a form of somatic experience for Black women with a history of sexual trauma. Woo, that's a mouthful. That was my dissertation.
Wow. Okay.
And you made that into a book.
I did.
Which you can get online right now.
We're going to link
at the link right here.
Yep.
Yeah.
So how long did that take?
Oh boy. So you know what? My doctoral process in general took about 6 years. I'm like, why the fuck am I doing this? This is dumb.
Did you really question yourself?
I did. I quit several times because like, why am I doing this? So once I locked into what I really wanted to research, it took about a year. And that year looked like me sitting in front of a computer for 10-hour days, freebasing cookies and coffee. I do not recommend 0 stars. Right? Don't do what I did.
Okay.
That sounds like vacation.
Yeah.
But
I was just going to say, I knew you were going to like
I just
that.
want cookie dough all day, man.
That's just every day for you.
Yeah, basically. I totally get that. I was very hesitant. I wanted to go for my Ph.D. And a teacher took me aside and said, "Are you willing to not have any money for the next 10 years and hate your life?"
Oh, jeez. That's intense.
But
So I
it's
said
true,
no.
isn't it? Yeah.
It wasn't that damn bad. It was intense though. Yeah.
But 6 years. Holy
6
crap,
years.
good for
Yeah.
you.
6 years. And so in that process, was I doing kinky stuff? Not if you think mental torture, that's kinky. So yes, I'm a mental masochist.
Hell yeah.
Okay.
We're talking my language now.
As far as in the community and stuff, I also have 3 kids, right? And so getting out to the dungeons and all of that stuff, I mean,
How
life
do you
is
have
life.
time?
I
Yeah.
didn't.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't. And what's interesting about that is that it made me feel less kinky.
Oh.
Because you weren't
Because I'm not out and
participating.
about.
Oh.
Right? Like, well, am I even kinky if I'm not going to the play parties, if I'm not going to the munches, if I'm not doing the things, right?
That's a good question.
The proverbial does a tree make a sound if it
Yeah.
falls in the wood and no one's here
So
to hear
what's
it.
the
Exactly.
answer?
Of course.
Okay.
Yeah, it took me a while to get to that answer, though, because I felt like, am I a fraud?
Yeah.
You know, am I? But the thing about it is, kinky isn't just what you do, right? For a lot of people, it's an identity, it's a state of mind, it's an orientation, right? Depending on who you ask. And so for me, it's an identity. It's just who I am, whether or not I'm swinging in some rope or not, you know, whether I'm in latex or not. This is just who I am, you know?
She's the perfect person to ask, but I always wanted to know, where does a person's kink originate from? Does it come from childhood? Does it come from something that was done to them?
We have been wanting to ask.
Yeah.
Like, we've been trying to ask this for.
And I mean, everybody has a theory like where
Right.
it came for them, but is there a general official scientific consensus from let's just say
Right.
based on your research? What are your thoughts?
It depends. And y'all like that answer, right?
Okay.
Because
I
for
liked
some,
it.
For
I
some
liked the
people, it
gray.
does. Like, I mean, and it's funny because I did a class called Trauma as a Gateway, Kink as a Bridge, right? So trauma.
Oh, shit, that's a good title.
We need to pause on that for a minute.
Yeah.
Trauma is a gateway,
As
kink
a
is a
gate-
bridge.
Yeah,
Okay.
trauma as a gateway.
Could you just explain the title and what that means?
Yeah, so for some folks, trauma can be a gateway to kink, whether or not something that happened to you later on found that same thing turned you on. Whether or not what happened to you, you're now navigating that through kink as a way to now have some control. Whether or not something that happened to you, you're now replaying that same thing and re-traumatizing yourself, right? Because what I found is that when we were wanting to destigmatize kink, and a lot of it's like, okay, people who are kinky are not more traumatized than others. Valid. That does not mean that sometimes those two aren't connected. But people hesitated to have that conversation, like, well, we don't want to re-stigmatize. We don't want people to begin to think that it's trauma that's causing kink. But for some people, it does. And we don't want to minimize that experience because we're trying not to, re-stigmatize.
Right,
But,
right.
Yeah, so that was the reason why I wanted to have this conversation. Is for those people who does, you still matter. Does that mean that you're less kinky because it's data? It's just fucking data. We don't have to make it something else. We just get to know that this is a part of your story. And now what do we want to do with that information?
Holy shit.
I think I'm going to have to rewatch this episode, even though I'm on it, just to process everything that you're saying. That's fascinating. Because I mean, just a little personal side story. There's been a history of sexual abuse in my past, and 2 people were women, and I'm bisexual. So I always wondered if that is why I'm bisexual. Thoughts?
Could be. I mean, but the point is if it is, then what changes?
Nothing, really.
Right? You know,
Okay.
and so it would be data. Like for me, I have my own history. And it's funny because I learned that I like electrical play because I was one of those kids that used to put the 9-volt battery on their tongue. So this was something I used to do as a kid. So when we talk about, is that a kink? I got pleasure from that sensation.
Interesting.
You know?
yeah.
I wasn't thinking kink as a kid. I'm
Right.
just thinking, ooh, that tickles.
Yeah, it was fun for you.
Exactly.
Okay.
So for you, when you talk about, okay, well, this happened to me when I was young and now I'm bisexual, if you want to tease it apart and say, okay, would I have still been attracted to women regardless whether or not that trauma happened or not? At the end of the day, it's data. Are you attracted to women now? And does it really matter for you? Because for some it doesn't. Does it really matter for you if it comes from this particular history or not?
Not really. It just gives me a lot more options.
That part, that part. Because for some people, they don't give a fuck if
Right.
it comes from trauma or not. For some people, they really want to tease it apart, and sometimes you just can't.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes you just can't because things become so enmeshed. It would be difficult to try to pull that thread without all of the shit falling apart.
Right.
Right? So sometimes you just can't.
What kind of shit would fall apart if you pulled a thread?
Sometimes people's whole sense of identity might fall apart.
Really?
You know, because if I am, say, bisexual, if I am really trying to tease apart my trauma from how I'm showing up now, and I'm digging and I'm digging and I'm digging and I'm digging, and it's really not getting you to the answer, when do you stop digging?
Right.
How long do you dig?
Right.
Right? You know, because at some point, the materials become one and the same. There is no pulling it apart. If you think about some different sciences, once you mix these chemicals, ain't no unmixing. You know, and so if it's a situation where maybe it was pre-verbal, you know, maybe it was a situation where your sexuality got enmeshed with the activities that was happening to you. So now those things are one and the same, right? We don't necessarily need to pull it apart, but we can look at it. We can see if there's some data to collect from it. And if it isn't, then we let it be. But if there's no data to collect, then what the fuck is the point?
Yeah, right.
You know?
Like, oh my God. It just feels like you're giving me a box and I knew what was in the box, and then you turn the box over and it's like, no. All this other shit's in here. Now look at it again. In my mind, what I just said made complete sense.
What's in the box, Jason?
Yeah,
oh my God.
Yeah, because sometimes it matters and sometimes it doesn't. And we just need to know what is the goal of us wanting to untangle it. And then we'll look at that, right? Because maybe it's less about the untangling. It's more about what do you get out of that? What's your goal? Yeah.
So in you doing this research, did you have a goal in mind? Like you were hoping that you would arrive at X? And
Yes.
Like your thesis?
Okay.
My goal was to heal myself.
Okay.
Like the overarching goal was to heal the angry person that I felt like I was. And I didn't show up angry. People were like, oh, Yulinda, she the cool chick. But inside, I felt like an angry little gremlin, right? And I couldn't understand where the anger was coming from. I don't remember the first 8 years of my childhood. So there's that, right? And so all of this was coming into play. And what I asked myself about healing the angry Black woman, one of the questions I asked were, are we angry? Do we have a right to be? Yes. Is it just anger, though? Right? Because what's underneath the anger? It's the grief. It's the sadness. It's all of the emotions I wasn't allowed.
The iceberg.
Exactly,
yeah.
to feel. And so my whole goal was to figure out, how can I help myself? That was the point. And as I have gone through this process, I've recognized that sometimes the wound isn't healed. Sometimes you just reconcile with it.
Oh, shut up.
Shit. Okay, so
Whoa, we need to sit on that for a minute.
I mean,
Sometimes it
yeah,
doesn't
but
heal.
that's a
That
terrible
is-
podcast thing.
Okay. No, no, I just meant like.
So let me keep talking.
Yes, please keep talking. Okay. Wow.
So basically, it's like coming to find out what your demons are to realize that I'm going to live with my demons because that's who I am. You're not trying to ostracize your own demons.
yeah.
But
Do you have to live
them.
with your demons?
And I mean, sometimes they're no longer demons.
Yeah.
You know, they transform, they transmute. They're not demons, and they probably never were. Wow. You know? I mean, and that's kind of what I recognized. My anger and all of that was for purpose until it wasn't. You know, and so now as I'm looking at all of the ways my quote unquote wound still shows up, it's less about me trying to stop that from being who I am and how I show up. And it's more me noticing that there that is again. That's showing up. I see you. I notice you. What are you trying to communicate to me right now?
It's like being aware of your triggers. That's something my therapist.
Naming it, recognizing
Yes.
it.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm not trying to heal anymore. Now I'm just getting comfortable with who I am.
Wow.
How long did it take you to
Oh,
get to
goddamn.
that?
I'm still sinking into it, right? You know, and this is a fairly new, because I'm like, I ask myself, why am I keep doing the same shit to a degree, right? Why am I still having the same struggles? I mean, they're not as prolific. They're not taking up as much space. I notice them sooner, but I'm still struggling with similar shit. I thought I'd be over this shit by now. Like,
Right.
why am I not done? Right? And I finally had to shift my view of it. Like, maybe there's no getting done. Maybe it's just, again, me looking over at that side of myself and saying, I see you, boo. You know, I see you. And I'm no longer trying to heal you into oblivion. I'm no longer trying to erase you.
Right.
Right? I'm just learning to integrate and to embrace you so that instead of me showing up splintered, I'm full, I'm whole. Right? And that whole Yulinda sometimes still struggle with receiving appreciation. That Yulinda still sometimes struggle with positive feedback, but I'll chase that negative feedback down like a fucking panther, right? Like, that's just who I am. And that's okay now, right? I just notice it. Oh, Yulinda, that's positive feedback. Sit down, allow yourself to feel it. What do you need to do to allow yourself to feel it? Maybe you need to write it down, because that's just who I am. I chase down negativity. Positivity, I'm like, man, that's cute.
So what happens when you chase it down? What do you do with it? Do you try to fix it? Do you try to conquer it? Like,
it motivates me, right? So an example could be like if I get feedback from a program I did, everybody like, oh, Yulinda, it was great, it's great. One person be like, man, I'm like, man, what you mean, man? You know, and
so
I'm
that's
chasing
what you
it.
focus on.
That's what keeps me going.
I
Because
get that.
it's like, because if everything is good, then what's the point?
There's no point of growth. There's no point of trying to get better.
Exactly. So it's the little micro moments where someone says, well, you know what, this was great. However, this could have been bet. I'm focusing on what could have been.
And let me just throw something out there, because I think creative, constructive criticism is one of the greatest things you can possibly give to people in a creative or in a constructive way.
Yes.
If you're just going to be a dick about it,
Yes.
fuck you.
Exactly.
But,
and considering the source too.
and considering the source.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So I call myself, I say, I'm not a praise slut, because I don't want you to just pat me on my head and say I did a good job. I'm a feedback slut. Like, I'm constantly like, what did you think? What did you think? What did you think? What did you think? Which is, I feel, makes me a pretty good person to be out here for the community, because I'm always asking the community, what do you think? What do you want? What do you need? Are we doing enough? Where are the gaps? And that keeps me going.
So specifically from like the Black community, what are you seeing as, I mean, I hate to use the word trends, but like what are you seeing as like constantly coming up in conversations like this?
Well, you know what? It's interesting, because when I'm looking at the POC or the BIPOC community in Kink, there's still this wanting to create space, right? So we're creating spaces and they're good. But I also tell people homogeny doesn't equal safety.
Oh,
What does that mean?
Yeah.
Meaning just because we all look alike don't mean you safe.
Oh,
Right. And so people tend to put their guard down because they expect safety, but also there's a lack of accountability, because I don't want to throw you under the bus. Right.
Yeah.
Because, like, if this is us and we're supposed to be safe together and something unsafe happens, who are we going to tell?
Right.
What happens if we bring somebody else in? And what that does is sets us up where there's a lack of accountability. We have to be accountable. Right. And so that's something I've noticed that we as a community are working to get better at, is to be accountable to one another. So when things do go left, as they do, right, that we have a way to come back. Because a lot of times we don't come back. Yeah.
Are you talking about
Really?
kink lifestyle or just in general?
Well, specifically in Kink. So I don't know how familiar people are with, I'll just put it like this. There was a certain conference that kind of blew up, right? And it was a POC, BIPOC space. And there were things that were happening behind the scenes for a long time.
Okay.
However, it would have probably not gotten to where it got if people would have really been willing to hold other folks accountable. Because what happens, and not just in the Black kink community, but in general, the celebrities kind of get away with some shit they shouldn't be. The people who are in positions of power or dungeon leaders or whatever. And what we see is this thing called the missing stare. Have you heard of that?
No.
So the missing stare is basically where everybody in the community know that this stair is missing, so we're just going to move around it, right? Like, oh, well, you don't play with dude right there. Like, if you play with him, make sure you got a spotter, whatever, versus kicking the motherfucker out. Or if you're not going to kick him out, how can you make him accountable? How can you bring him in and rehabilitate if possible? We just going to pretend this shit don't exist?
Because now you're just perpetuating the problem, and it continues regardless of who's dealing with it.
Why would people pretend that it doesn't exist? It doesn't make sense to me.
Well, the same reason people pretend that uncle that come to the damn Christmas party every year didn't fuck around with the kids back in the day. The same fucking reason.
Okay.
Yep.
You don't want the instigation.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You don't want to ostracize yourself by calling everybody else out.
Okay.
Yep. The missing stair happens in our families, at work, in kink, everywhere, because we don't want to rock the boat. Right? Same shit.
Rock the fucking boat,
Yeah,
though. That's the
rock
only
the
way the boat gets to goddamn shore.
That part.
Yeah.
That part.
Yeah. Wow. I'm like.
That's hitting home.
You said a lot. You said a lot. I'm still like, on the whole wound comment, let's be honest. Okay. So what do you hope to accomplish with your studies, your research, your books? Like, what is your ultimate goal?
That's a really good question. And there's two. Like, my one is like, there is no goal. We just keep running forever.
The fucking truth.
Exactly. But my goal is to really, I'm really about the people in the community. Like, how can we create spaces where we feel seen, heard, understood? Like, that's really my goal, is for the community in general, right? When we talk about the kink community, and hopefully globally, right? Larger scale, is seen, heard, understood, and really respecting one another's differences, whatever they look like, and recognizing that leaning in to understand folks can help with a lot of this bullshit we're dealing with on a global scale. Like, have some curiosity about one another, right? Because people are afraid of conflict and everything else. Conflict doesn't have to be negative if you come to it with curiosity. I'm curious about, what did that mean for you? What was coming up for you?
Right.
Where were you when you said what you said? Was there something that I did or how I showed up that, helped with some of what you were experiencing? Like, curiosity can disarm a lot of the negativity and bullshit that we experience in any space that we're in, also in the kink community.
Maybe it's because it's so volatile right now, but like I'm feeling that question relates a lot to politics, and everything's politics, but really. But you asked the questions that were very accurately well said. And I think a lot of people would say, like, well, what does X mean? Like, what does that mean? You said, what does that mean for you? How did you feel when this happened? And I think if you're trying to build a community, that's how to do it. Make them feel like they're a part of the community.
We all have a story. You know what I mean? Everybody has a story as to how they ended up where they are, whether or not we like where they landed or not. There's a story there. So if you're curious about the human being, then there's a chance that they will let their guard down and actually allow for connection. There's so much disconnection in general, which is making it easier for us to fight against one another, because what do we lose? There's no connection. Right? The more connected you are, the more willing you are to be curious about the person across from you.
Concurred.
Yeah.
Wholeheartedly. So this is why I'm guessing you have started so many organizations. They're non-for-profit, right?
Yeah, and so it's so funny because when I started this, right, it started with therapeutic BDSM, right? When I was looking at, okay, how can I take this energy that's happening in this dungeon and apply it to me? So I'm wondering if kink or BDSM can be cathartic, therapeutic. And so it started with that. I'm like, well, people can't just jump out here and just start doing the damn things. Like, they need some guardrails, they need some support. So I created self-reconciliation therapy, the modality, right?
What is self-reconciliation therapy?
It's the modality.
Yes.
Shut up.
I just wanted to sound smart for a second. I'm sorry.
Today is not your day for
No,
that.
no, it's not.
No.
Y'all are
I'm
hilarious.
going to go sit in the corner.
No,
okay?
you might as well.
Put a little hat on.
Yeah, I know. We should have done scab.
But please.
So when I was looking at this, so that's a part of my dissertation. So my whole goal was to create a resource, right? To create a resource for someone like me that can help me navigate this disconnection I have with my body because of my trauma. That was the whole point. And so I created this I guess you could call it a workbook. I call it an edu guide. And in it, I'm like, okay, well, let me give someone some real concrete steps. So I created this modality, and there's 4 pillars. First one is self-awareness, right? Because you can't do shit you're not aware if you're not aware of what's happening. So in the self-awareness pillar, I'm asking you, what are your coping skills? When you have a hard day, are you going for the bottle? Are you going to the gym? Are you going for the burger? Like, what do you do? Are you even aware of what the fuck you do when you're triggered, right?
Yep.
Your coping skills, are they productive or not, right? And for me, like, I want to have a glass or 2 of wine at the end of the night. But you also say you want to go to the gym at 5 o'clock in the morning. Now your ass is dragging. Now you're not going. Now, you know what I mean? So is that coping skill really productive, right? So no. And it's not for judgment, right? Because there's so much self-judgment. It's data collection, right? That's what this is all about. So then after you have the awareness, now it's the acceptance. Are you able to accept where you are? Maybe those coping skills have been fucking you up. Can you accept that? Not to judge, just to accept. Can you look in the mirror and do some part of it is mirror work? Can you look in the mirror and say, I love you? And if not, what comes up? What is preventing that? What is the barrier, right? Can you even accept your own reflection? That's the acceptance.
Whoa.
Dude, I didn't even know that people like had issues with that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, looking in the mirror and telling you they don't believe it. It's not true.
No, I get that.
You know, and so then we go to self-attunement. How in your body are you, right? Are you aware of, do you even like the things that you do, or is it just part of your rigmarole? You know, are you just used to moving how you move? So I have them do something called 5, seduce yourself with your senses. So every day you choose a sense. So maybe the first day is taste. Really pay attention to what you put in your mouth. Do you like it? Do you like the texture? Then why the hell are you putting it in your mouth? You know, because we might just be eating shit that we've been eating for the last 10 years. Do you even like it? Why are you eating it? Right? When you go outside, do you smell? Because we're so disconnected, we're moving without even connecting. So go out. Can you smell the air? What does it smell like? Are there flowers nearby? Is somebody cooking? You know, can you smell the laundry detergent because you're washing right now? And it really gets you back in your body in a way that you probably haven't been in a long time.
Yeah.
You know, and so that is for us to be able to, because when we move into therapeutic BDSM, if you're not in your body, then how is therapeutic BDSM going to be productive? So self-reconciliation prepares you for going into these scenes with therapeutic BDSM.
Because what happens if you go into BDSM and you're not in your body and you're not aware? Like, what could go wrong?
That's a really good question.
Yeah, so a couple of different things can happen. So if you're not in your body, then it's probably not going to be as effective as you want it to be, right? Because you're not even present. And the second thing is that if you're not aware of how your triggers are going to show up, then how are you going to help the person who's supposed to be navigating you through this to be able to see them when they pops up, right? So if you know that when I'm overwhelmed, I go nonverbal, how are they going to know whether your nonverbal is you slipping into subspace or you dissociating? Oh. How would they know if you don't know, right? And so the self-reconciliation is the process that the person is going through with their therapist. So they're doing self-reconciliation with their therapist, and then they'll get to a point where, like, you don't have to be completely whatever, but aware enough to be able to say, you know, when I'm overwhelmed, I kind of shut down. Okay, bet. Right? So now we can tell whoever your facilitator who's going to come in and do these therapeutic scenes, this is what their triggers look like. This is how they respond when they're overwhelmed, right? So then after you're feeling attuned enough, then we go into atonement. And that's where we can introduce therapeutic BDSM. And atonement is atonement. You are reatoning with yourself. It's not about forgiving anybody else. It's about you forgiving yourself for forgetting who the fuck you are.
Oh, shit.
Can you say that again for the people in the back?
It's not about forgiving anyone else. It's about forgiving yourself for forgetting who the fuck you are.
Wow.
For whatever reason.
Wow.
Yeah.
So there's so many questions. Oh my God. So there's a lot of people in the BDSM community who are aware that they need a certain something to process feelings, because I've talked to them. What you offer is different because it comes with the whole psychological exploration and the whys. when do you get to the BDSM part in your business, I guess?
Well, it depends. So if you've been doing therapy for years, you already kind of know all of your things, whatever. It might take 6 sessions or so, right?
Okay.
Before we're like, okay, you're at a point where we can bring the practitioner in. So what that looks like, eventually, because we're still building the list. There'll be a list of practitioners that you can choose from, you know, and based off your needs, what kind of scene you're thinking would be applicable to your treatment goals. Okay, well, this person has a nurturing dominance. They do impact, they do flogging, blah, blah, blah. Okay, that's what I want. Boom. Then we have a meeting all together. The clinician, the therapist, and a facilitator. This is what we've been working on. This is their treatment goals. This is what we think could be helpful for them. What are your thoughts? Okay, they talk about the type of scene they would most likely build for this client based off their needs. It could be one scene, it could be multiple scenes, depending on what they need. And then they go into scenes. So I'll share with you all. We're currently in a pilot, right, for the program, where we are running through this as a collective, I guess you could say, the people who have been through the program. I am the client. Right. And so I've gone through 4 sessions with my therapist who is a student. I just had my first therapeutic BDSM experience on Saturday.
Holy shit,
as
really?
a part of this process. And what's interesting about that, I'm still processing it, because what's interesting about this is that it's virtual, right? And so this is another part of it, is it doesn't always take much for change, right? Because one of the things I am really good at doing is following instructions or a script. My dominant didn't give me a script. It was extremely uncomfortable to sit there and like, do I speak? Do I not speak? Do I wait for them to speak? Like, where do I put my hands? I don't know what the fuck to do. It was extremely uncomfortable to be in a position where I was forced to have to navigate not knowing what to do, because I'm used to knowing what the fuck to do.
Did they do that on purpose?
They did. They did.
Yep.
Because they know how I am. Like, I can make it happen. But if I don't know if I'm doing something right, I fall apart. I fell apart. I wasn't expecting it. And what was so interesting, she had me do some self-flogging, some other things, and it was these claws that I used, and I put them on my leg, and it shocked me, the intensity of the sensation. It's like, I felt like I hadn't been in my body for years. I'm like, oh my God. Like, the sensation was so powerful. I'm like, Jesus. And all of a sudden, I started to cry. I couldn't even tell you why. I was like, I have no idea where the tears are coming from.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And so we went through the whole process, and then we took a break. And then after your session, you're supposed to have an integration session with your therapist. We did all this in like an itty bitty amount of time. So I met with my therapist after that, right, as a part of this demo. And she asked me a question about, I'm trying to remember what she asked. So as a part of my process, she was calling me good girl. And I guess they could see my little show up, and I was like, but then the other part of me was like, fuck that. Good girl. Why do you even need to be told that? We don't need any affirmations, because that's weak. And she asked me, what age was it that was happy about the little girl comment? And it popped up. I said 7. What age was the part of you that resisted the good girl? I said 12.
Whoa, that's so precise.
I couldn't even tell you why, right?
But you
those
knew.
Those immediately popped up.
Wow.
And so now what that would look like is that I would work with my therapist to kind of work through 7 and 12, like what was going on, what was happening, like why those 2 ages immediately. And so when we think about this process, it wasn't the self-flogging, it was the good girl, it was the not knowing if I'm doing this right, and all of my worthiness wounds, right? That is a part of having to be of value by being of service. And if I'm not of service, if I'm not doing it right, then that must mean that I'm not worthy. I am not of value. That's my wound.
I'm just going to call you on this one, because look at his face.
Yeah,
That's
hitting home. That's hitting home really heavy.
Because he's always like overworking, overachieving. Everything has to be perfect. And I keep asking him like, why?
And that's what I always say. It's like, but that's like a knee-jerk reaction.
Yeah.
I didn't know it was like a trauma response.
I mean, it may or may not, that's your data to collect, but for me, it definitely, and when I was growing up, I was the smart kid, right? And so there was no emotional space. There was no, like, why are you crying? Tears are weak. That's how I grew up. Like, we ain't got time for tears.
Yeah.
But you got straight A's, good job,
God, I can so relate to that.
right? You're having a bad day, man, suck that shit up, And so my worth was straight A's. A's.
Yeah.
A's.
Yeah.
A's. I didn't have the space to be emotional. So when I talk about the angry Black woman, it was because anger was the only emotion I was allowed to express.
Do you think that's common?
Yes, I think it's common for a lot of people, and it's interesting being in a feminine body but having a lot of masculine experiences, right? Because that's a lot of what men have to deal with. There is no anger is expected. You're a man. You can be angry, but you can't be soft. You can't be sad. You can't be disappointed. You can't be any of that. That's some weak ass shit. You gotta, man up.
I've always loathed that mentality.
Yep.
And I remember, like, I had friends in school and younger, and they would cry and they'd be like, "Well, I'm not a faggot or anything." I'm like, "Dude, what are you talking about?
Yep.
Feel your fucking feelings."
Yep.
But like, holy shit, like that's how you're raised. That's how you're drilled in, and that's not like a parent thing. That's cultural.
That's conditioning.
Yeah, I'm actually in shock because I've been in therapy for 10 years, but one of the very first like big breakthroughs I had with my therapist was she brought out the emotion chart that has like all these different and I was like looking at it going, she goes, "What's wrong?" And I'm like, "Well, I'm only aware of really 3 emotions. I'm either happy, angry, or neutral."
Holy shit!
Yeah.
Really?
So that was
Same.
it, because that's how I was programmed.
Yep.
It's like, it's okay to be happy and it's okay to be angry, or you can shut the fuck up.
Exactly. Same.
Feelings? What feelings? Yeah.
Same.
Wow.
Exact.
Yeah. So when we started exploring the chart, like I actually like just now thinking about it, like I'm getting anxious, like so many emotions to explore. And she kept saying like, "What comes up?" And I'm like, "What do you mean what comes up? Like nothing. I'm neutral right now. I'm neither happy or angry. But if you keep pushing about this, I'm going to be
get
angry." Yeah.
Because
I'll
that's
give
the
you
one
an
you can
emotion.
access.
Exactly.
Because that's the one you can act.
Yeah. That's
what my
easy.
therapist said,
Yeah.
too.
That's easy for a lot of people, right?
Anger is easy, because it's acceptable. Sadness, not so much. Grief, not so much. Disappointment, melancholy, whatever these other words are, people don't know what to do with them. So we repress them.
I really want to go off on a whole tirade about this.
I know.
But I'm trying to keep it on point.
I know. Like,
I'm saying we can go wherever we go,
Okay.
right?
So let's talk about Fox News.
no.
Okay.
No.
I mean, it's a weaponization.
You know what? And it's so we'll go here, and
All right.
only because it's like even in those type of situations, I think curiosity still wins, right? Even in that type of
Yes.
shit, like I'm not like I hate. I just don't. That's too much goddamn energy. I don't give a fuck enough. But being curious about even the people you think are the worst of the worst, if you connect with them on a human level, like real curiosity,
Yeah.
not no fake ass shit,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
people will
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
If you are really interested about a person's story, you disarm them in a way that arguing will never do.
Yes, wholeheartedly agree.
Yeah.
But I mean, not even as like a weaponization, not even as like a tactic to try to disarm them, but like when you are genuinely curious, that barrier comes down really quick.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, because defensiveness is easy.
Yeah.
I think also if you are in person with somebody,
Yes.
it's a lot easier
Yes.
to connect to them, because like everybody's a keyboard warrior.
Yes.
Like they could just do whatever, repeat ad nauseum, do the same replies. But if you actually sit down with somebody who believes differently and you do get to know them and ask questions.
I like doing that.
Same.
I was raised by a mother who, this is the greatest thing she's ever done, was that she refused to put me into a religion of her choice. She says, we're going to go explore them all.
I love that.
And she introduced me to the LGBT community at a very young age. So like when I got to kindergarten, I was like, that's normal.
Yes.
And I got to witness all these great religions and great spiritualities, and it was fucking awesome. I don't know where I'm going with this. My brain
We
just
were
shut
talking
down.
about Fox News.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, great.
Yeah.
But the idea of like having this like kind of open mentality, it got me to a point where it's like I loved questioning. I loved like going to like the religious leaders and being like, tell me why. Tell me like what is the draw to this? And
They don't
you get
enjoy
shut
that.
down.
Yeah,
Oh
let's say-
God, no! They don't enjoy that at all.
And
they
that
don't
shut
like being
down makes you go,
questioned.
well, fuck, like
Right,
what's wrong
yeah.
with me for asking this? So like that's always been kind of like my drive. And you're 110% right. Is just be curious, ask the questions, and hopefully they're not offended.
Yeah, exactly.
But
You
if
shouldn't
it's-
be talking to them if they can't answer a simple question like why or how or why do you believe that. At least, like I understand that you may not want to be challenged, but to shut you down, it's like at least give some sort of answer that you believe, because the Bible says so. Okay, that might not be a good enough answer, but if it's a good enough answer for you, then please share that instead of like shutting people down. My husband actually got kicked out of Catholic school in year 1 because he asked the priest, he said, why do I have to talk to a man in the box? He went to Catholic school. Why do I have to go talk to a man in a box if God is all knowing? Why can't I just talk to him directly? There he went.
Wow.
Yeah. And interestingly enough, that's the only reason we met is because he got kicked out of Catholic
Oh,
school.
get out, really?
Yeah.
See, look
And
at
then
that.
he ended up at my high school, and then we ended up sitting next to each other in human physiology.
Look at that.
Yeah.
Serendipity.
I know.
Very
totally.
kismet as fuck. That
Yeah.
was beautiful.
So the fact that he challenged the priest is the reason why I ended up with a husband and 2 kids.
I love that.
Right?
I thought it was 50 Shades of Grey.
No, that's why I ended up with my second
Gotcha.
child. Yes. Yeah.
Get the story right.
I
Get the
know,
story
right?
In the details. I'm curious.
I love that. I love that. And I mean, asking questions is a skill, right? Because it depends on how you ask the question will depend on whether or not people are defensive. Like why questions? Why? People automatically like almost brace themselves and feel a type of way. So if we can take the why out of it, if possible, and maybe ask a what? What's going on for you? What's happening for you?
Okay. Okay, so why is the why so like triggers people to be defensive?
Because if you think about the questions of why when we were little, it usually is attached to something negative. Why'd you do that? Why are you fucking up? Why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? It's the connotation of the why question itself is negative.
No shit.
Yeah. If you just think about it, all the times when you're little and somebody asks you like, why you do that? And it's almost as if it's putting you on where you have to defend yourself. Why did you do that? And now you're trying to come up with the reason.
Fuck, I never thought about it like
It's not as
Fascinating.
connected.
So what should you say instead?
What? I like a what question. What was it that was going on for you when you went ahead and did that? What were you thinking?
Yeah.
How'd you come to this? Where were you? Mentally, physically, emotionally?
How are you feeling?
Exactly. Exactly.
That is a really, really fucking
it
good
is.
tip. Just
And
in life overall,
Yeah.
not just,
Yes.
yes.
Yeah.
I
Exactly.
love that. Thank you.
And sometimes you got to, and it makes you pause too. Because usually our immediate question is why. So you have to be like, how can I ask this differently?
It
to
takes
get
some
it?
practice,
It
right?
does.
Oh, I'm definitely going to practice that.
It does.
We're going to practice
We're
that.
gonna practice
yeah.
that.
Yeah.
It does.
I remember when I learned the word but, like you should never use the word but in a sentence because it negates everything you
Everything.
said
Before it.
before it. And that threw me off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
And also,
right.
that's a way to do it instead of but.
I like and also. But
Love that.
I also like the improv mentality. It's like let's not negate something. And that's why I love doing the podcast because
Yeah.
I have like 30 questions and we might touch on 2, but fuck it, wherever your mind goes, that's where I want to go.
100%.
So yes and.
Yes, and
Yes,
I love
and.
that.
Now I'm going to be afraid to ask why questions, but please
I'm
don't
not.
take it
Oh
like
my God, no. Let's
yeah.
dive in. But
I'm okay with why questions,
Yeah.
but for some, and you're thinking about what's the outcome you want, right? Now, if you're trying to piss somebody off, then you ask the hell out of them. You ask, Think about about the outcome that you want from this conversation, right? And then that'll help you think about the questions you ask. If you're trying to actually get to a place of resolution, then the questions you ask can help you get there. But if people don't stop to ask, like, what's your end goal? Like, what's the point of this conversation? Are we just bitching and arguing just to bitch and argue? Or do I actually want you to potentially do something I want you to do? Right? Let's learn how to finesse a little bit. I'm just saying, just a little bit.
Okay.
Okay,
So tips for finessing.
I was just
Let's
about to
go.
say, like,
Yep,
like,
yep.
like this is a
I'm
totally
listening.
different podcast. I'm down for it.
Yeah.
Communication skills to hack your life.
That's funny.
When you were going into this area of study, did you know that you were going to be transversing, going over all these different topics, or like were you like laser focused on this one aspect, and it took all the different aspects to kind of piece things together in the puzzle?
Yes, the more I did it, the more gaps I noticed. I'm like, oh, fuck, there's another gap. God damn it. Oh, shit, there's another. It's like when you ask a question and you just get more questions.
Yes.
And so when I did the therapeutic BDSM, I'm like, okay, so now we need clinicians, we need facilitators. Like, okay, where am I going to get these facilitators from? And so when I started recruiting for people to come in to be in this role, to take this training, I'm like, how do people prove that they have these skill sets? Because unlike clinicians with certificates and licensures, they got receipts.
Correct.
Professionals who've been out here doing this work for years don't have receipts. Like,
Walk me through receipts real quick.
Yes.
so your paperwork, right? Your licensure, your certification. I can show you my diploma and say, I am proficient at whatever the thing is. Whether you're a massage therapist, whether you're a physical therapist, you have quote unquote receipts. Pro facilitators who do kink professionally have no receipts.
Well, I mean, I was going to say correct, but I'm like, I don't know.
They don't really have any.
I didn't even know there was pro facilitators in Kink.
That's what I'm
like,
unaware of.
So that existed before you started all this, or?
Yeah, I just gave it language.
Okay.
Right, people have been doing this work for fucking ever. I am not doing nothing new. I'm just giving it language and some structure. Like, ain't none of this shit new. I'm never going to come out and say, I invented blood. No, I didn't. I can't.
You're just trying to make it legit.
And,
Okay.
give it some language. So
Or
people
academic.
have already been helping other folks navigate whatever the fuck through kink, right? This isn't new. And so I say, okay, there's people already who have been doing this work. I'm not that. I am not trying to put myself as the pro because I'm not one. So let me go find them. Right. And then when I asked them, well, what have you been doing for the last several years? And they were like, well, I went to this master and I did this conference and I did this. There was no form of quote unquote legitimacy. Right. And some folks wanted it, some didn't give a fuck. Like, I've been doing this shit forever. I don't need your goddamn paperwork. I'm like, valid. Right. And so,
Right.
and valid. But some people wanted some type of validation. So I'm like, well, shit. So how do we provide validation for others? That's when the Certified Professional Kink Practitioner program came. Because now this is a 12-month program where you can learn everything from negotiating and vetting all the way up to how do I do this as a brand? How do I make this my business? And everything in between.
Wow.
So we created that program to fill that gap, right? Then I'm like, well, we don't have an organization. Therapists have all these days. They got ASAC, they got this, they got that. You got, the physical therapists with all that shit. We don't have one. Well, fuck it, let's create one. That's where the Kink Professional Standards Alliance came from. We need our own organization. Because what I've learned is that we can wait for other people to build it for us, or we're going to build this shit ourselves.
Damn right.
I don't have much patience. I'm just
So you're like, let's go. I'm doing it. Can't find it. I'm making it.
I'm making it.
Love that.
And it just kept going. I'm like, God damn, the universe, how many motherfucking jobs you gonna give me? Shit.
As many as you can take on.
Man.
Yep.
Because the next gap I saw, so I went to go do a training. I don't know if I should out people. So I just say this. I went to go do a training, and while I was there, the person who invited me to go do this training was like, your work is really edgy, right? And I'm like, okay. And, no one will really take you seriously unless you're aligned with someone like us, right? You'll never be published in a PubMed or anything like that because you're not legitimate. I was like, fuck you and PubMed. I'll start my own journal.
Oh, fuck. Yes.
And so now we have the Journal of Kink and Community.
Hell yes.
Because I want community members who are not necessarily academic, but still have so much knowledge and wisdom to share. You'll still have to have the standards, right? Mm-hmm. But you have a space where you can come and get published. Now, alongside the clinicians, alongside the academics, we all are publishing in this same in this same publication together.
Because you're looking at knowledge and experience and okay, that makes so much sense. Because the thing is,
again, all of this existed. Academics didn't come up with SSC, prick, rack. That was the community members. They came up with these standards. And again, folks came in and gave it language, but instead of giving kudos to the people who came first, they gave language and made it seem like they created the whole shebang. I am not doing that. I didn't create anything other than giving language and frameworks and structure to things that already existed so that we can have a little bit more support while we do it.
Very much like theory based. Like the theory always existed,
Exactly.
but now you're putting the words to it.
Exactly.
Yeah, like when he started explaining movies to me, it made so much more sense because I always enjoy the storytelling and everything. And he's like, well, if they're going from right to left versus left to right, this is how it makes you feel. And I'm like, what? So, yeah, it's just like knowing the whys and knowing it's just so much more interesting. So, wow.
It seems like you are creating communities and like that community creates a newer community on top of each other. And I think it might be very easy to create a community in a community and like subgenre down. But it seems like you're taking those communities upward.
Yeah, it's like I'm scaffolding as I go. Like this,
Scaffolding.
Yeah, like this needs something to hold it up. So therapeutic BDSM, okay, well, this needs something else to support it. Self-reconciliation therapy. Okay, well, self-reconciliation therapy needs the people to teach it, right? Well, okay, we'll come up with the trainings. I created applied therapeutic BDSM for the practitioners, and I created self-reconciliation therapy and therapeutic BDSM for the clinicians. So I had to create those trainings. Okay, well, how do we find the people to come into those trainings? Well, we can easily find the clinicians, but they can't just be kink friendly. You motherfuckers have to know what kink is. So are there trainings that exist? Yeah, there's a few. Are they going to be as good as the ones I create? Probably not. So let me create one for the clinicians. So now if you come through my program, I know you kink conscious, kink competent, and all of the fucking things, because not only did I take a kink conscious program, I taught the one at that school, and this is better than that. I'm just going to put it out there. And then, okay, so then my practitioners, they don't have their receipts. Let me create a pathway for them to come in and do this. Well, now, fuck. All right, well, we need an organization to scaffold all of this. Well, let's build another one. Oh, man, it'd be really cool if we had like an archive. Well, let's create We Connect. Now, we have a place that we own that's not on anybody else's platform. Facebook, Instagram, fuck them. We have our own thing where now we have our archive and we have the Journal of Kink Community alongside it. So we have our archive and we have our academic publication. And hopefully that's fucking it because I'm tired. Shit. Shit. Shit.
Oh my god! Oh. I think I peed a little.
I'm gonna put that damn Gemini in the goddamn basement in the cage because they need to sit the fuck down.
I got winded listening to you.
God, I know.
I felt like a fat kid running the mile.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my God.
I was holding my breath the whole time. And
Right?
I think I'm gonna pass out. Oh my god. Holy
Woosah.
shit.
So
Yeah.
what do you do for fun?
I'm about to experience some. So fun. That's what I'm getting back to, because when you asked me, I think you asked me earlier about
I wrote it down.
my passion,
Yes.
right? And that's the thing that I had to really take a step back from, because I didn't feel passionate. I felt compelled.
Oh, that's a good word.
I felt compelled. Like every time I got an idea, I ran with it. It was immediately. When I was at the place doing the training where he was like, you would never get a publication, blah, 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 I immediately went back to my room, looked it up, put in the paperwork to make it happen. There's no breath. I felt like a machine. I was just doing. And at some point, I'm like, is this shit going to be fun at some point? Like what the hell? Shit. But it felt... Shit, I'm tired, goddamn. Yeah. But it felt compelled. Like when we talk about spirituality, to crack it up.
I'm buying you a pillow. Just
Man, it's like it's mission work, right?
Yeah,
and so
yeah.
and this might sound crazy, but I didn't matter. It wasn't about me, right? Like
Right.
I moved myself out of the way and I lasered focus on what I was being compelled to do. And now it's finally starting to slow down a little bit. I'm like, well, shit, I'm about to take this bra off. I'm about to sit.
There's nothing better.
Right, they take the bra off. Like that's how I feel like a long day of work. Like I finally get to take the damn bra off. I feel like I'm finally getting to that point where it's like now we're just making sure everything that has been planted is solid, right? Because the next piece, and of course it's not done,
This is my next question.
Right, is the community piece. Like now, how is this community facing? What are we doing to support the community? Like, are we going to do peer support pods so people can just come in? And not even about the education or the license and all this shit. It's about being seen, heard, and understood.
Yes,
That's the next level.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh God, I want to ask so many questions about this.
Yeah.
Like how are you going about presenting this to be seen, to be heard, to be accepted in a way that is beneficial rather than just shotgunning it out like everybody else?
So I ask questions. So I used to do, well, not used to, I'm going to do another one. We have pop-up info sessions where I invite the community in. It's free. Come, let's talk about it. So now I'm moving
In person?
No, for right now they're virtual.
Okay,
right?
okay,
They're virtual
okay.
because it's not just Chicago. So I'm moving from info more so to listening circles. We want to hear, what do you need, right? So I want to know what's people's experience in the dungeon. Like, do you like it? Do you not like it? Is it good? Is it safe? What's missing? Whatever. I want to hear from the community. So now we're moving based off the data we collected, not just our fucking, what we come up with. What do y'all need? Because I can create some shit. You're like, I don't need that shit.
And it helps nobody out there.
Exactly.
Because you can think what they need doesn't mean shit.
Exactly. So that's the next level, is to really step out and really ask the people, what's next? What do you need?
So in an ideal world, let's say 10 years from now, you're looking back when you'll never be done with anything because, but ideally, what does this look like when you are finished with this?
This will be me passing this off to the community. This isn't mine, right? I was the channel for this. My work that I'm feeling compelled to do is where this all started, which is working with people with a background of sexual trauma. My goal is to create a space that brings all of that together. It'll be a building with a dungeon. It'll be a building with a pole class. It'll be a building with physical therapy. It'll be a building where you can come in person and have therapy, get your damn astrology chart done, all of the things, and it'll be a holistic space where you can get back in reclamation with yourself. And so that is my work. This is an interesting, I don't even want to call it a detour. It's like when two roles go like this and they come back, at some point this is all coming back together. And so that's where I'm being led to. I am bringing this back and it'll be one holistic thing at some point. Yeah.
I love that.
Now, when you say a building, you're just talking about like a physical
Yes.
location.
Yes.
Do you have a destination in mind for this?
Right now I'm thinking, if I'm going back to Black folks, I'm thinking somewhere not too far from where I stay, like south side of Chicago, but not, I'm just going to, not too hood, right? Shit. People feel safe, but I'm just going to keep it a buck. Shit, I ain't trying to go there, motherfucker. So anyway. Shit.
You want to make it accessible for the white people not to be scared to drive there. Let's be honest.
I want you to be able to say, okay,
Yeah.
you can buy the building and do what you want to do right
Yeah.
here. And so, and it's interesting because it'll be like I don't want it to be in a white neighborhood. I don't want it to be in where it's like, okay, do I have to worry about my car being gone when I come back out?
Exactly, yeah.
I want it to be in a place where like, similar to that, in the middle. And I have places in mind actually, but now it's a matter of buying a building. Shit. I'm like, where the money for that shit coming from? So now that's the next thing, right? Becoming financially viable, because a lot of this work, when you talk about mission work, this has been out of my pocket, right?
Yeah.
All of this has been me building from me, so that's the next step. Somebody pay me, please. Oh shit!
We'll talk to you.
We'll talk after the show.
because
Oh no, we ain't got money.
No,
I'm
no,
not
no,
putting that out
no,
there.
No, just gonna give me a bag.
No,
like,
no,
That's why I don't buy pop anymore.
Meaning
I can't
that,
afford
like,
pop.
we're talking to somebody that's in a sort of similar situation, and we
Yeah,
gave
yeah,
him
yeah,
some
yeah.
ideas.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So one of the greatest advice I've ever been told when it comes to business. Now, I grew up in film. Like I was in film for a while, and then you get out of it because 20-hour days suck. But they said you never spend your own money when you make a movie. You spend someone else's money.
Yeah, some investors.
And investors. And the point of that is to get people who actually believe in you
Yep.
versus people who just want to make the dollar back.
Yes.
Have you tackled anything like that?
Not yet. So when we talk about next, so that's why I'm out here, right? Why I'm doing the conferences, going to the workshops, so people are more aware of the work. So then, yes, that will begin to show up, and I can start positioning myself in a way for folks who want to invest. So that's next.
Having this kind of community location, I mean, you started putting off all these things you wanted in there, like you mentioned some spirituality in there. Like what would you envision? Like the Band-Aids off, like money on the table. Oh, Doc Yu Roc, go! Like you got all the money you ever need. Like what would be your dream position with this?
So we talked about serendipity. So I worked for Chicago Public School System for 8 years as a school counselor.
Good for you. Oh my God, good for you.
Yeah. So when we talk about stability, I was working there, and then they laid everybody off, right? I was number 2 on the low on the totem pole, so I got laid off. And when I got laid off, I tried to going back, it didn't work. And so I was like, I want a non-for-profit, right? But then I looked at the process of a non-for-profit, and it was like a binder for the binder for the binder. I'm like, I don't know what the fuck. And so I was like, I'm not going to do it. So I went, got my licensure and all of that, became a counselor.
Stumbling upward.
Is this before or after you became a doctor?
This was before.
Okay.
So I had already took my test to be licensed while I was at CPS. And this is where fear comes in at, because I wanted to leave, but I was scared because this is stable money, right? CPS, until it wasn't. They kicked my ass out and I'm laid off.
Yeah.
And so I went into private practice, and life happens. And 8 years later, I took one of my old LLCs, Heal on Purpose, right? Heal on Purpose was all about looking at the impact and the prevalence of sexual trauma in the Black community. That was the whole point of and to provide resources and everything else. Okay, that's where my heart was before Kink came in and hijacked me, right? That's where I was going, right? And so I did that. And when I was at IICS, I took the program, and this is funny. The person who taught the program, I closed my eyes, that's my ADHD, that's me focusing, right? And I took the program, the person who taught it went overseas. And so the person who runs the school was like, Yulinda, you want to teach this? I'm like, hell no, I don't want to teach this. Like, no, I'm like, I don't want to do it. She was like, you can do it. Like, otherwise, who else is going to do it? You took it, whatever. So in 2 months, I created an entirely new Kink Conscious program for this school. That's how I got into teaching Kink.
Get the fuck
I wasn't
out.
planning on doing it. I went to, so they were looking for people to volunteer, right, for the school. I'm like, fuck it. I mean, I like the school. I'll volunteer. No one showed up. But me.
What?
Oh, I was the only one who showed up to volunteer. She was like, I want you to help work for the school. She had create yourself a position. I was like, oh, okay.
Can I create my salary too as long as I'm at it?
I mean, and so what's so interesting is that, again, serendipity. I was at a place trying to figure out what the fuck I was going to do next. And so I don't know if you can tell, I'm really good at talking to people.
Well, I
Shocked.
I must be on the wrong show,
I
but
don't
anyway.
know what you're talking
But like, I can help the students, because what I recognized as
Yeah.
a student was like, there's no student support. I can be the person to provide support for the students. So I became the director of student engagement, right? As a director of student engagement, people were taking the Kink program and they were talking about the Kink program and some of the things that they were finding were missing, some gaps. And so that's how I became the person to teach the program. I taught it for one session, right? It was 5 months. I had students. Everybody said it was great. And I said, I can't keep teaching for you all because I'm being called here. So I left the school, stopped teaching, stopped doing that program, and that's where therapeutic BDSM came in, because I'm being called.
Yeah.
I was going to create a sexual trauma program for that school, but then Kink said, nope, we want you to do this first. And so that's how I went into Kink.
Wow.
So now I'm being called back to doing the sexual trauma piece. So that's where I'm coming back
Holy shit.
to. And so I changed the Heal on Purpose LLC to a nonprofit by just filling out some paperwork, 3 pages, versus the binders. I didn't realize how easy it was to convert an LLC to a nonprofit.
You're kidding. I didn't know that.
I didn't know until I looked into it. What I thought was impossible 8 years ago literally took $150 and 3 pages.
So converting an LLC into a non-for-profit is easier than applying for a non-for-profit.
Seems so to me.
Well, we got to tell some people about this, that's for sure.
Yep.
The
Convert your LLC.
LLC was easy enough to get.
Yeah,
Yeah,
an
just
LLC is
convert it.
fairly easy. Okay, thank you for that.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so that's how I now have the Heal on Purpose nonprofit. It's because I converted it. And so now all of these things are coming together. I knew, I'm like, some type of way, universe is going to bring me back to my love, right? Which is, and it's happening slowly but surely.
And where does spirituality come into all this?
Spirituality is really it's all the same. The reclamation with self is you really understanding the God indwelt, right? That you are it. And so all of the answers are internal. As much as we're externally seeking,
Yeah.
once we slow down and be quiet and we actually tap into self, all of the answers already exist. That's my spirituality.
That's the trick, slowing down, right? Yeah.
They already exist.
Yeah. Oh boy, we're gonna have a good conversation after
That's
this
a whole
podcast.
nother thing, yeah.
Okay, so
Holy
into
shit.
this camera, you're gonna plug all the things you want to plug. There you go, and speak slowly so people can take notes.
Okay, slowly.
All right,
Jeez.
all right.
Okay. I'm trying. So what do I have happening right now? So the Power and Praxis program, that is the educational program for the culturally kink competent professional that I am teaching. So if you're interested in being a culturally competent kink professional, whether or not you're a clinician, educator, or something else, the enrollment is open for that. I just finished the first cohort. When did we finish? We finished last Wednesday. And so that is open for you to enroll in. We start again in August. I also have
Where do they go to?
Oh,
enroll?
my
Yes.
website. You can go to, the easiest way to get there is docuroc.org. DOCYUROC.org.
Cool.
Yep, that'll get you to everything. The second program is the Therapeutic BDSM Collaborative Network Trainings. So that is all of the work that comes with Therapeutic BDSM, self-reconciliation therapy. That starts in September. You can also get to that through my docuroc.org website. That's just the easiest place to get to all of the things.
Awesome.
Yep.
Clever of you to keep everything together so they can
Very
just go
clever.
to one place. Yeah.
Yeah.
You've started other websites as well,
Yes, a
other
ton.
organizations. Where else can people find information about what you do? I mean, get ready for you remember back in the 90s when it's like, get all your favorite songs on these 12
Yeah.
CDs.
So we're gonna
get
have-
ready for this litany list
Links.
of stuff right here. But what are some other websites people can check out?
They can go the KIPSA, THEKPSA.org. That's the organization, the Kink Professional Standards Alliance organization. That also will lead you to all of the places as well. And then, now, see, I got to remember the damn website myself. Ecosystems of Excellence. I believe that's .org. Ecosystem. Please don't ask me to spell that shit out loud.
Okay.
It's right here.
Yeah.
And that's another. And so I tried to make it less overwhelming because there is a lot of stuff. So I created a quick start, and what that will take you to is a graphic that says, here's the things and here's why they exist. There's also a hub you can go to. So if you're a clinician, you go here. If you're an educator, you go here. If you're a practitioner, you go here. And it kind of guides you to what you might want to look at first based off your current role. So that also has all of the things. Everything leads back to one another, right? That's the whole point. So,
Yep.
yeah.
Just like community.
Just like life.
Look at that. I love that.
I'm learning.
I feel 1% smarter after this episode.
That's it. Damn it, I didn't do my job.
See, I actually feel like dumber, but not in a bad way, but in shit, I have more to learn. Like you don't know what you don't know, and
Yeah.
you think you know something, and then you open the door and go, "Oh God, there's a whole warehouse back here."
Well,
that I
that's
didn't know
why
was
we
here."
started this podcast, so
that's why
we
we
can
started
learn.
it.
Yeah.
I want this to go on forever.
Okay.
But I know you also have a life.
One last thing that I learned watching your YouTube, and I found this fascinating, and I feel like you need to share this. You were talking about the number of people that are into kink and what's the average. There's vanillas and then there's kinky people, but you broke it down the percentages. Can you talk about that?
Well, if you're talking about what I think you're talking about, the thing is people talk about the norm, right?
The norm, that's
Right.
it, that's it, yes.
The norm. However, 64%, according to something from like 2014, I believe, are interested in kink. So if something is over 50%, that would be what, right? So if the norm of people being interested in kinky sex or whatever is 64%, then they're actually the majority. So most people are actually kinkier than they expect themselves to be. Things that people might not think is kinky. Do you like blindfolds? That's considered kinky. Do you like having your ass smacked sometimes? That's considered kinky. Do you like having a hand around your throat? That's considered kinky. Like things that are typically might be considered quote unquote, and what the fuck is vanilla, right? Like we can go on a whole tangent about what some of these things mean. At the end of the day, what brings you pleasure, period. I'll leave with that.
I was trying to think of an outro.
This is it. Yeah, we're done. Yeah.
Holy shit. Well, that's a wrap.
You can find out more of our work, our art, and everything bad at boudoirafterdark.com. Stay curious.
Stay unapologetic.
Stay bad.
You are my toy.
The Boudoir After Dark podcast is brought to you by Boudoir After Dark, creating photo and video art for the unapologetically erotic. The podcast is produced by Jason Osterkamp, Hilda Burke, and Donna. Music by Temple of Hunger.